And at this point, you see, we have the subdivisions under D. So there's now, I'll put it in brackets, a DTR number 1. And he is called the Deuteronomy historian. I still read in all kinds of literature about Scripture about this Deuteronomic historian. They just hang on to this. And they'd say he was Jeremiah or Baruch. Baruch, remember, was Jeremiah's amanuensis who wrote for him. And he supports the Shilonite priesthood, the priesthood at Shiloh. Then they have concocted a DTR2, and he is a Deuteronomic editor, D-editor, and he shows up after 587, 586, the fall of Jerusalem, a new edition. So they think they found him in there too. A new edition. And then clear down here at 400 BC, you have the R writer, and that is Ezra after the return of the exile, and he is on the side again of Aaron. Ezra, we'd call him the Aaronide, like he likes Aaron and his viewpoint. So look what we've got. The thing has grown like Topsy. And now we have JEPD, DTR1, DTR2, and R. And this book is, I've seen this all around. He gets lots and lots of ink. Friedman does. He wrote a book on just the J source and called it the something or other of J. That was the title of his book. And that is preposterous, to say the least. Well, let's see how far we've come. And to do that, I might draw a little bit of a cartoon up here that will undoubtedly pick up again down the road or down the tracks, because all this amounts to a choo-choo train in my thinking. So here's the track going along here, and we've got, how snappy was that train? We've got, looks something like this. Got the cattle guard out in front. And we have a place for the smokestack about in here, and then it's all along here. And it goes like this, got wheels. And for that locomotive, we have, just to make it simple, we have J, E, D, and P. And we could say plus all their little funny additions that will be our locomotive moving down the tracks. There's going to be more cars. You say, oh no, you can't believe that. There will be other cars. And they will take our time to some degree and show that a lot of this liberalism still has, long arms and long roots and so forth. The one that will take our next attention is called form criticism. Form criticism in the Old Testament. And I think maybe we can start that just to kind of get a start, or not. Okay? The beginnings of this theory called form criticism or Formgeschichte. See, if you're a good German scholar, you'll talk about Formgeschichte. What is Geschichte? Well, we'd like for it to be history. But if they don't, it really isn't a full-blown history. It's more like what you would call not really facts that are wide open to any kind of telling or retelling. But here we've got Geschichte, which they would call salvation history. This is a funny way to put it, but Geschichte is salvation history. And by that they mean it's not real history. It's got a bias toward religion. It's got a bias toward God. It's a made-up story to prove some sort of point. The Exodus is not really history. It's only to tell you how the Israelites came down through, got the law, came up to the Jordanian side of the Jordan River, and they were leaving sin behind. Egypt, see, was sin. And they were crossing into the promised land. Some of that's good typology, makes good sermons sometimes, but you take that off to a dark place, you've got the idea of Formgeschichte. Only now, we've taken up a new part, and that is the idea of the literature and the form of the literature at that. Well, form criticism, Formgeschichte, had its beginnings among scholars who believed in the study of comparative religions. Bad start. Not going to get you anywhere. We've talked about this before. They were of the so-called religio-historical school, religious history. If it's religious history, it's obviously not true. It's something that the church would say. Excuse me. An important aspect of their work had been the examination of the popular ground from which religious ideas had sprung. Not the kingly ground, but the popular ground among the people. Religious beliefs were not the property of great men, but came from undercurrents of belief and fancy among the masses. There's something to be said for that. You're talking about what the people believed rather than what the kings believed. Out of this concern for popular religion came a new method for studying the literary history of the Old Testament. One should analyze the literary forms of the people and determine the situation in their life, what we call Sitz im Leben, out of which these literary types arose. The situation in life, another German term. They make a great deal out of this, do the form critics. And they're trying to show you about the undercutting, the currents, rather, of religion among the population. I think that that's a good place to stop. I hope that you have been learning some things about the backgrounds of all of this, and so we'll be looking for you next time.